I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear anything coming out of chambers.
I don't have any sound either.
Test, test. Can you hear that? Nice. All right, for the record, Chair Brown did call the meeting to order and we are starting roll call. We'll jump back to it. All right, take two. Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Tan,
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. Present.
Commissioner Dawson,
Present.
Commissioner Aberly,
Present.
Commissioner Wagner,
Present.
and Commissioner Reiswig.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Oh,
I'm also present.
Commissioner Peters.
Present.
Excellent. We do have a quorum.
All right. Did anyone submit a public comment in advance?
No, they did not, and we do not have any public attendees.
All right, then we will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Commissioner Reiswig approves.
Do we have a second?
Second, Wagoner.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, so today's agenda, Mr. Rickards is going to present. So I guess go for it, Mr. Rickards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So for the past 8-9 months, the cities and the county have been working on these countywide planning policies. We've had the consultant come to you a couple of times, once in February and then once in July, going over the sections of the countywide plan, the update that we've been working on. The team consists of the city of College Place, which would be myself, Mayor Hernandez, and Mr. Rizzatello, the city administrator. And then from the city of Walla Walla, there's Preston Frederickson and Elizabeth Chamberlain, and then they had a representative from City Council that was attending. From the county, it was Lauren Prentice and Melissa Shoemake, and some administrative staff. And then Todd Kimball attended a lot of the meetings from the county commissioner side. And then the city of Waitsburg was also in attendance at those meetings. And so we worked through this process as a group and guided by the consulting team, and came up with these the proposed goals and policies that you see and that we brought to you over the course of the last couple of months. The draft has went out for public comment, received very little feedback from the public. And the next step in this process is for so the planning team has recommended that this move forward to the county commissioners for approval, and that is going before them on September 23rd. to the Board of County Commissioners. From there, the Board of County Commissioners, if they accept it, will then send it back to the cities for formal adoption. In that process, we're a little ahead of it from the Planning Commission standpoint, primarily because it's a pretty short turnaround time that we'll have it back in our court. And I just wanted to get it back in front of you guys before we get into the holiday season. With the council being on a compressed schedule with budget and whatnot, we wanted to make sure that we got it to you guys early enough that I could then get it on their agenda. So the schedule would be, if we have a recommendation from Planning Commission that the council approve the document, then once the three cities approve the countywide planning policy document, that those decisions will be then sent back to the county commissioners for adoption. So it is kind of an all or none process that the state has set up for this sort of thing, because it is so high. It's so high level that it's just kind of the way they've got it set up. But if could you go ahead and pull up the draft document, and I'm going to try to scroll through it with the pointer. Yeah.
I just had a quick question. What do you mean it's kind of all or nothing because it's high level? I wasn't exactly sure what you meant.
So the way the process is structured, there's the recommending the body, that the team that's been working on it and going through this process. It's primarily been staff level with liaisons from the councils, like the mayor or a council member or a county commissioner. And so, you know, we've taken public feedback and we can tweak policies as needed, but there are regulations that there are elements of it that we have to be included. And I'm not quite sure how to explain it real thoroughly. But the county is the lead on it. So they're the ones that do the final approval of the document. So I guess that's what I kind of mean in that I wouldn't say they hold the purse strings, but they, because we're all partners in on this, but the way the state regulations are set up, they are the final deciders on what gets approved and what doesn't. I guess it's probably the best way to capture that. So let me see if I've never used this thing before. Okay, good. And I can't read that. Can we make that at all any bigger, or?
Are you able to move it from here? Okay.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I wonder how, with it being that big, how, is that my mouse or your mouse up there? So I'm not moving it.
You open it when you're ready.
I guess just go ahead and can you scroll through to I think it's page 5. So the countywide planning policies are broken into 9 sections. You have the urban growth areas and contiguous orderly development section. The capital facilities and essential public facilities section, rural resource lands, transportation, housing, countywide economic development and employment, fiscal impact, coordination with tribal governments, and then roles and responsibilities. And we went through each one of these in detail when the consultant was here. So I'm not going to hit them in detail tonight, but if the big one for me is the urban growth areas and contiguous and orderly development section. And that section really is the groundwork for the cities and the county working together. So if you look on page 7 under the urban growth area policies, there's the land capacity analysis section. It doesn't outline the actual methodology, but it tells us that the cities will work together. And if there's a dispute, how we deal with that. It talks about the population projections, the policy for that, for our 20-year population projections, adoption of a process for ensuring coordination when establishing and expanding the urban growth areas. I mean, it goes into great detail, and then as the counties come to an agreement on what those things are, that methodology will be adopted in this as an appendix, but that's at a later date. That's something that the cities and the county are going to be working on in 2025, early 2025. The other thing that I really appreciate about this document really is if you go to page 30 of it at the end, all of the policies are in a table, and it highlights the sections that are shalls and mays. And so basically it's a table. It's almost like a work plan. And so, you know, obviously this first section, I'm trying to get there in my document. Here we go. You know, it breaks it down by chapter and the policies within that chapter and the actions that are needed for each section. The pinks are shalls, the yellows are shoulds, and the greens are mays. So this is a great tool for us planners when we're actually having to work on this stuff, to very clearly identify what we need to work on, what we might want to consider working on as we develop our comprehensive plans or laying the groundwork for our comp plan updates. So I think it's a very nice, short and concise document. It doesn't take a huge amount of time to get through the whole section. I mean, the meat of it is 30 pages, and then there's another 16 pages of this table that outlines all the goals and policies. So with that, I would open it up for discussion or questions on any of the chapters, any of the goals and policies, and have discussion.
Commissioner Peters.
Hi. I appreciate the chance to review the countywide planning policies, and overall, I think they're really well done. I do want to raise a concern regarding accessibility. I noticed that the word accessible only appears in the document once in permissive language related to housing. I think it's on page 20. Well, there's no reference to universal design or accessibility in transportation planning anywhere in the document. And the lack of a comprehensive focus on such a key issue raises some questions for me on how accessibility will be prioritized in planning efforts as we move forward with this as the new planning document. I think that accessibility is essential for creating an inclusive and inviting community, and it should be integral in all of our planning efforts. Realistically, I don't think at this time point any further edits are allowed to the document. But if they are, I would urge the team to consider incorporating a more robust language around accessibility and universal design, as well as including a solid reference to accessibility and transportation planning.
Okay, thank you.
You'll know, I see you're searching. If you do accessibility, you won't find it at all. But if you search accessible, it should take you to page 20 where there is a shall statement about housing. Or sorry, a should, not a shall.
Any other questions or comments about the plan?
Actually, I have one comment kind of to address that. I think, I understand your concern, but I think our state does a pretty good job of mandating what we have to do for accessibility and definitely encourages us to pursue that from a planning standpoint. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think there's some pretty strong leadership from the state for that requirement and those needs.
Well, we certainly like on public processes, public projects consider accessibility and I'm not sure about ADA. I'm not sure about the technical language on whether that falls into universal design or not, but and we do have an ADA transition plan at the city for highlighting project or areas of deficiencies and making improvements.
I guess I have one more comment. I appreciate that the document talks about the entities working together. And I think that's more of a goal that we've seen develop over the last few years within the area, which as someone who's built in the area over the last several decades, that was definitely not the mindset until fairly recently. And I think we're too small of a community to take an adversarial role. So I'm excited about this.
Okay, we'll ask if there's any other comments from any other commissioners.
John, this is a question for you. I haven't spent a lot of time on this, but does this kind of address our concerns from a couple of years ago about what the city of College Place can do with inside the county and kind of giving us a little more ability to stretch out and expand?
It addresses the process of how we get to the next comprehensive plan amendment cycle and on our methodologies. And it helps. It's basically a guiding document that says we're going to work together. We're going to, work on a methodology that works for everyone. If we can't come to an agreement, there's a process to help us work through that. So yes and no, we're not quite there, but this is a big chunk of that. The next heavy lift is going to be, in the first quarter of 2025.
Is this like a legit process that everybody's agreeing? I mean, in other words, are you hopeful that this is an avenue forward, or is it just kind of look good on paper document?
No, this is a good document. This is going to be really, really helpful for us as different agencies to work for us to work together and solve our growth issues.
Nice.
John, can you remind me, when does this document go into effect?
So the schedule is to go before the county commissioners on September 23rd. And then there's if they're happy with it as proposed, then they will send it back to they'll send it to the cities for approval. So that's a 90-day period. And from what I understand it, the way it's set up, it's a yes or no. When the county sends it to the cities, it's an up or down approval process. And then depending on the outcome of that, it then goes back to the county commissioners. And so sometime, this year, they'll make final adoption within 90 days of the 23rd.
Okay, thanks.
And my question, Commissioner Peters brought up a really good point, and I'm wondering, at this point, is there any sort of editing that can happen, even past, like, if we were to motion for this to be recommended, well, we're going to, but is there a condition we can place on our recommendation? Or in other words, we don't like this verbiage right here. Can we mark it up as a condition?
I think that, so your recommendation is going to go to the council. And so I can bring this concern up to the project management team. But we don't have a lot of time before the draft goes to the county commissioners, because that's next Monday. So I'm more than happy to bring this up. And possibly we can come up with some language that might address it. But I can't guarantee that. And what I'm looking for is a recommendation for approval to city council, basically as it is. So I think you could probably fashion a recommendation that the council approve the countywide planning policies as in draft form, with a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners consider some language that more strongly addresses accessibility and universal design. And maybe Angie, you could, since this is kind of something you brought up, maybe you could help, wordsmith that in the motion. And we'll just, with the caveat that obviously the county commissioners are gonna, that they can choose to make those changes or not. But I can see if we can get some modified language in the draft that goes to them between now and Monday. I think the project management team is working on getting a quick meeting together here in the next couple of days before the meeting, because there actually are most of it's clerical changes, but there might be some minor tweaks that are happening behind the scenes. So
Sure. And I'm assuming when you say Angie, is that Commissioner Peters?
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Commissioner Peters.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So I appreciate that. And will you follow up with Commissioner Peters after we conclude the meeting for the comments? So
Well,
something
I
you-
mean, I think I have, yes, I can. I think I have an idea of what she's talking about, you know, but, and I was more, hoping that she might help fashion the recommendation for tonight's meeting.
I'm happy to do that, to frame it as part of a motion.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Okay. Well then, are there any other comments before we move to motion? All right, then the motion for this meeting, and this is the only agenda item tonight. So the motion is to recommend that the College Place City Council approve the Walla Walla countywide planning policies. Do we have a motion to approve?
Do you want me to reframe that to include the request for edit?
Yes.
Okay. And just a point of clarity before I try to craft this, are we moving to send it to city council or to send it to the county commissioners?
You're moving, motioning, it's to go to the city council.
Okay. So I would move that we recommend this go forward to the College Place City Council for approval with the note that there be edits to include more robust language regarding accessibility, particularly in relation to transportation, and for consideration of language that includes universal design.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second it, Wagoner.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And any opposed, please say nay. All right, then the ayes have it. Now we'll motion to conclude the meeting. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Oh, Commissioner Averly?
Oh, reports and other business.
Oh, did we miss something?
Well, we do have reports and other business in there, but I can provide some information.
Do you want to do that before we
Sure.
conclude? Okay.
Few things, under reports. We have, Jersey Mike's has, paid for their permit. So that's exciting. The sandwich shop, they already have their signs up. Their sign permit was issued earlier this year or this summer. So, people seem to be excited about that. So that's on schedule. And then we've received, the master plan development application from, the Lakeside Development Company out of Post Falls, for the former Christensen property, roughly 200 acres. The master plan development proposal, it's under review for completeness. We hope to be issuing a notice of completeness by I think the 25th. And then that will go out if it's determined to be complete, that'll go out for, we'll advertise a notice of application that'll be out to the public. It's a 900 plus unit development, mixture of single family residential, duplexes, multifamily, and so it's some parkland along Stone Creek. So that's exciting. That'll be a big project for us. Probably at least 10-year project, I imagine, before build out.
Where was that done? I missed that.
So off of Majonier, where there's that private lane, Christensen Lane. Yeah. And there has been some conversations with the Farron Group, which is that apartment complex on Whitman near the water tanks. They've been contacting me about paying for at least one permit for one of their apartment buildings. We've essentially given them a deadline that they need to at least pay for one permit in order to maintain their vesting, because they applied under the 2018 codes and got all their approvals under the 2018 codes. Well, we're now in the 2021 codes, and we've been in the 21 codes for over a year now, I think, or going on a year. So, and they've stretched this out a long time, and we need some action. So, it looks like they are bringing in some new partners. So hopefully by the end of the month, we will have at least one permit issued on that site. So, yeah, that's kind of it for the big development related stuff. Oh, I can't really talk in details about it, because they're still in their due diligence period, but I did meet with a developer on a piece of land north of the Regency there at Garrison Village Way and Myra, that vacant land right there. So there's pretty strong possibility that's going to sell, and that we'll have some development activity on that land in the next couple of years. So that'd be great.
How is that land zoned, John? Is that commercial or is that residential land?
It's zoned commercial, general commercial, but it does allow for multifamily and other activities. So.
And John, I have one question on that Whitman property. You said that they may be getting a permit for one building. How many buildings were there total? I thought there was 180 units total that were slated to go in there.
Right, they have I think there's 9 buildings, but like 3 of those were like, there's 2 different building types. Basically, they've got, I want to say, a 24 unit and a 36 unit. And so 3 of each, if that adds up to 180, maybe, hopefully, something like that. And then the other 3 buildings would make up like a clubhouse and pool house and like a bike shed or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if they pick that permit up, how long will they have before they act on that? I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll build it just because they get the permit, right?
Right. So they would basically, the permit's good for 180 days. They'd have basically 180 days to pass their first inspection, basically. And then the permit continues as long as they're passing inspections.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, I mean, they're really expensive permits. So hopefully if they get one, they actually they have the resources to build it too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't conclude the meeting.
Yeah.
It was good,
right.
good bit of information. Is there anything else?
There's probably more. Oh, well, I guess Lions Park, I give you an update on that. Just general update. The shaping of the pond has been completed. So that's pretty cool. The structures, they're supposed to be starting construction of, there's a couple of outbuildings, bathrooms, picnic shelter. They have permits in hand for that. They should be also beginning the subgrade work for the parking lot areas soon. But basically all the underground infrastructure is complete and installed. So now we're starting to see stuff happen above grade. The creek, I think the last time we mentioned, Matt, I think I told you that they would be rerouting the creek so they could do the work and stream work. The bed has been shaped. They still need to do some more work on it, but I think they're going to be asking for an extension on that part of the project from Fish and Wildlife because they have more work to do, but still have to the bridges, there's 2 bridges, their permits are pending. There's one minor tweak that needs to change on those. There's the dock. That's part of that. Things are moving along. It's still not really that exciting to look at. It's a lot of dirt, but it was fun. A couple weeks ago, I shot a little social media post, but they had a couple of big excavators down in the pond doing the dredging part, and they were in a 10-foot deep hole. So it didn't show up real well on the video of how deep it actually is, because video is just, you don't get that perspective. You lose a lot in the video, but things are taking shape. So
How deep is the pond?
it will be 10 feet is the final grade. Yeah. So that's deep, really.
Yeah, rather than what, 10 inches as it was before.
Yeah, we had 10 inches of water and 10 feet of muck, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But we got down to the poorly graded gravels, and it's being naturally fed through underground water. So that's actually really nice to know that we actually have some of the surface water, essentially the stuff that's right below the surface, is actually going to be feeding that. And so we're not completely relying on the stream. Yeah.
How long is that project going to take?
Will be complete by spring. There's going to be some extensions, project, non-working days and whatnot, and delays for materials and things like that, inevitably. The contract says right after first or second week of January is when they're supposed to be complete, but I know we'll end up granting an extension. And because as soon as we start getting into this wet weather, there's going to be delays for construction. So but it will be ready for farmers market. I want to make sure we have our fishing derby there. We haven't had that for a couple of years. So spring, that's when we're shooting for our grand opening.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
All
I
right.
got.
Thank you. All right. So I guess we'll re-motion for the conclusion. Do I have a motion to conclude the meeting?
So moved. Wagoner.
Second, Peters.
All right. Then if there's no objection, the meeting now concludes at 7:40 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.